let's talk about MAC address spoofing. Now, we know that there are two main identifiers of a device inside the network: its IP address and its MAC address. While IP address can be dynamic and could change each time you join a network, MAC address or physical address stays the same always. Or at least that's what it was supposed to happen until MAC spoofing attack appeared. So, what is MAC spoofing? Well, MAC spoofing is a type of attack where an attacker alters the MAC address of their network interface to impersonate another device. The MAC address is a unique identifier assigned to a network interface card by its manufacturer, and it is used to manage and control network access within a local area network. In a MAC spoofing attack, the attacker changes their device MAC to match the MAC address of a legitimate device on the network. This deception can cause the network to mistakenly identify the attacker as a trusted entity. But why is MAC address spoofing so useful? Well, MAC address spoofing can be used for attackers in several scenarios. It can be used for bypassing network access controls, as many networks use MAC addresses for access control. By spoofing the MAC address of a permitted device, an attacker can gain unauthorized access to the network. It's also used in bypassing MAC address filtering. Some networks implement MAC address filtering as a security measure, only allowing devices with specific MAC addresses to connect. That is called MAC address whitelist. Now, spoofing a legitimate MAC address can bypass the whitelist filters, and then they will appear as a legitimate device. It can also be used as evasion of tracking, as MAC addresses can be used for tracking devices on the network. By changing the MAC address, an attacker can evade detection and monitoring systems. And, as usual, man-in-the-middle attacks. By spoofing the MAC address of a trusted device, an attacker can intercept or alter communication between devices on the network, potentially gaining access to sensitive information or injecting malicious content. So MAC address spoofing is useful in man-in-the-middle attacks as well. But when is this attack really used? Well, it's often used in various scenarios. In network penetration testing, ethical hackers might use MAC spoofing to test the robustness of network security and identify vulnerabilities. It can be used in malicious attacks, as cybercriminals may use MAC spoofing to bypass security measures that we just mentioned, to evade detection, or perform more advanced attacks such as man-in-the-middle attacks. And in privacy concerns, individuals who wish to avoid being tracked on public or unsecure networks may use MAC spoofing to maintain anonymity. So now we know what MAC address spoofing is. We know when it's used and why it's used. But how can we prevent it? Preventing MAC address spoofing involves implementing several security measures to protect the integrity and security of the network. We need to implement network segmentation, which will isolate sensitive networks and critical systems from general access networks, and that will limit the impact of MAC spoofing attacks. There is also port security. We want to configure network switches to enforce port security policies, such as limiting the number of MAC addresses that can be associated with a single port, and we also want to use features like dynamic ARP inspection. Now, MAC address filtering, while not foolproof, implementing MAC address filtering on switches can add a layer of security. This should be used in conjunction with other measures, as it can be bypassed by spoofing. You also want to use strong authentication, such as WPA3 for wireless networks, which rely on more than just MAC addresses in order to verify identity. You want to implement network monitoring and intrusion detection systems to identify unusual or unauthorized changes in MAC addresses on any network device. Regular audits or regular security audits and vulnerability assessments are crucial in order to identify and address potential weaknesses in network security, which could allow MAC address spoofing attack taking place. And let's not forget encryption. Encryption is important for any type of attack that you want to prevent on the network. If you encrypt network traffic, especially in wireless networks, It can protect data from being intercepted even if an attacker is able to spoof a MAC address. Alright, so these are the preventive measures that organizations can use to safeguard their networks against MAC spoofing attacks, and to also maintain a higher level of security and integrity. Alright, awesome. Now that we got this out of the way, let us take a look at MAC address spoofing in practice.